Hi, good day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Alex. I'm lead international trainer. Um, Thank you for taking the time to attend our webinar. Today, specifically, we're going to be focusing on Ubiquiti's Design Center and Ubiquiti's Design Center tools. I do tend to feel that it's something that is underutilized, and just want to discuss what we can do through it and what the advantages are that this offers you. So just to kick it off, just before we get straight into it, I just want to say that questions are most welcome. If you have any comments or questions or suggestions for what we should do next, you're more than welcome to post those through on the chat section. This webinar was actually a suggestion from one of our resellers previously, so we love your feedback. If you have anything specific you want us to focus on, we can happily do that. So we'd love your suggestions on that. As with all of Leaders webinars, we do also have a prize draw at the end as well. Like all the other ones, you need to have attended in order to be eligible for that prize. And with that, I just want to make a comment here that this webinar is done live, so it's not going to be technically 100% accurate, and we might run into some user errors, but I think it's a good way to demonstrate how the tools work within Ubiquiti. And what we can do through it. I also just want to make a quick note here before we start that Leader does offer this design or this service to you as a free of charge service to all of our resellers and partners. So essentially, if you send us through a floor plan, we need to know two things. We need to know the scale and essentially the height of the ceilings, and we can do this on your behalf free of charge. So please make use of that service. We have a team that is dedicated towards that, and they can assist you in designing solutions as well. So with that, we're going to delve straight into it. This isn't really a technical webinar, but just more focused on the actual design side of things. And this can be used by anyone. So I am logged into Ubiquiti account right now. Although it you don't necessarily need to have one. You can do this just as an incognito user as far as I'm aware as well. But essentially, if you're signed in, it will keep all of your projects tied to your account so you can check back on them later and also do collaboration with other people if you wish. So to start off with, we are currently on design.ui.com. So again, this is a free of charge place. Let me just open up the comments here. So this is a free of charge service that is offered by Ubiquiti. Anyone can go here and essentially you just need to have a Ubiquiti account to take advantage of it. But to start off with, we're going to get put into the section where we essentially do a product segment or product overview. In other words, if we want to create a quote, this is the first place we will get presented with. So what this is just a quick sneaky way for Ubiquiti to quickly promote their products and put it into a rack for you. So the idea is that you would start off with something like a controller at the very top. In this instance, it's already suggested a Dream Machine Pro, and I'm going to I have the ability to swap this out for anything else if I want to. Just before we continue through this, I also just want to make a comment that it's not purely going to just be the sales. We're also going to look at the floor plan and design as well. So for our example here, we'll go, let's say we have a Dream Machine Pro SE that we want at the top of our rack, and we can expand on this if we want to. So we can go, okay, our site is going to have, in this instance, it's suggested the U6 Pro for us, but I can swap this out to whatever I want to. So U6 Enterprise, and I can change the quantity to whatever I want. As soon as I confirm that, I can go add in the rest of my variables. So let's say, for example, this is an indoor scenario where I have a couple of cameras that I want to set up. I'm going to need 60 days of recording, just some random variables here. Let's say, for example, this company has a few doors as well that they want to control through Ubiquiti's Access Control Kit. I can also add access readers in here if I want to. So let's make this on a 1-to-1 ratio where there's 5 reader lights and 5 reader professionals. I'm not going to add the phone system in here, and I'm not going to add smart building. Or if I want to add smart building, let's say, for example, this company has a couple of employees with EVs, then this can be added in as well. We can add that in, not a problem. What this is really good at is generating a shopping list. So if I wanted to check this out, I essentially wouldn't have the ability to. It's not available in Australia. It is meant for the US and Canada. But what this is very handy for is suggesting stuff that we wouldn't normally think about. So if I take a look, for example, at, sorry about that, At the parts list here, we'll see that it includes stuff like a hard drive. It makes a suggestion for the type of drive and the amount of storage that you should go for. It gives us a suggestion for cable. It tells us to add extended warranties on, which Leader does offer. And then it gives us all the other info around these products. So you'll see it even makes suggestions for the smart power cable, etc., etc., etc. This is a really cool way to make sure that you're not missing anything. And essentially you can come to us as the Disty for this with this parts list, and we can make that up out of the parts that we have available. So it's a cool way for us to very quickly cut to exactly what you need, and it's a very simplified method of selling Ubiquiti. So obviously it's not going to allow you to completely continue the checkouts here, but it is a very cool tool to have. This is all fine and well, but I think what a lot of people tend to use this tool for is more for designing wireless solutions and designing wireless scenarios. So I'm going to flick over here. You'll see at the top right-hand side, I have two icons. And as soon as I tick over to the second one, you'll see I have a floor plan option. So I can, before I get started here, I can create a project to my own wishing. So I can go here, for example, and say, add a new project. We're going to do two examples here. One is where we do a small home or an apartment, and then we're going to also do a office. So the office will take a little bit longer to do. That's why we're going to start off with the home. And I'm just going to call this Leader Apartment. And essentially, this is just a friendly name, so you can remember this. We can also add an exact location into this if we want to, but I am just going to cheat that and go Adelaide, South Australia. It doesn't need to be 100% accurate if we don't want. I'm going to say the type here is home. It's just to change some of the outputs from this. And then it asks me for my building size. So typically you would need to have some indication from your customer what you're looking to deploy and where it's going into. And before we get started here, we'll take a look at we'll just say it's a standard. I think this is about the average size of apartment in Australia, if I'm not mistaken, so about 150 square meters, and also the amount of users. So if it's a home, obviously it'll be a few users, so we can say 4 or 5. When we're thinking about users here, I want us more to think about client devices as opposed to actual people. So think about IoT devices, laptops, cell phones, etc. Most people tend to have 2 devices, so it stacks up quite quickly. For our intents and purposes, we'll just go 10. And then Ubiquiti will automatically suggest some products based on 2 values. So the first one is a value, in other words, the money side of it, how much you're going to spend, or whether we want to achieve performance. So for our purposes here, we'll go performance. So this creates a new project, and I can now upload a floor plan to this if I want to. 2 ways to do this. So I can either upload an existing floor plan, or I can use the drawing tool to just draw this out manually. Both of those are viable options. It's nice if your customer already has a existing floor plan. It just makes it simpler and faster to do. For our intents and purposes here, we're going to quickly upload a floor plan to just cut through it. So this one is a pretty nice floor plan that was already done. I'm just going to make it first floor. Let's suggest that this premises has 2 levels. So I'll just make this first floor and confirm that in. Obviously, it depends on what you want to achieve with this. Typically, we'll get more, traditional architecture floor plans, and that tends to be best for actually figuring out Wi-Fi coverage, etc. Whereas if you're looking for something to impress your customer, if you have a tool to do 3D designs like this and 3D floor plans, it is very cool to see it this way. And we can still use this. We just need to take some things into account when we do this. So the first place to start off with when we have this imported is we need to change our metrics. So we need to change what our ceiling height is, and we need to change our scale. So ceiling height, we can typically measure that at the customer's premises. So let's say, for example, this premises is 2.5 meter high ceiling heights. And then we need to add the scale so that Ubiquiti can more accurately figure out what the scale is of the coverage. I just see a question popping through that says, will this recording be shared afterwards? Yes, absolutely. We will be sharing that off afterwards to you guys as well, and to everyone that missed it as well. So the next thing I need to do is I need to change the scale. In order to do this, I need to know the length of one of these walls. It's pretty easy. You literally just need to go into the customer's premises and go, I need to measure, for example, this specific wall to figure out what the length of that is. Or if you have the floor plan, you'll typically see the scale on that as well. We'll just cheat a little bit here and go from corner here to corner there is exactly 3 meters. That should be a roughly accurate scale based on the customer's premises. Okay, so you'll see it's changed the scale, and Ubiquiti now has a much more accurate representation of how large the premises actually is. We find from our own testing that this is fairly accurate. We've done massive deployments where they've used these as rough indications to see coverage and overlap, and it does work extremely well. So this is the first place to getting started, is ceiling height and scale. The next thing we can do is, if this is a multi-story building, we can also upload different floors as well. We're not going to do that right now, but it is nice to have that and combine that into a single project. So you can have, and when you're exporting this, you can have all of these floors into a single PDF file as well. So it's a single project, just with multiple levels. We can also do stuff like change the name, change some of the device opacities, wall opacities, etc., or duplicate a floor plan or remove it if we wish. The most logical place to start would be to draw walls. So we have 2 wall options here. One is just where it draws a nice big square for us, or the option that we're going to take is wall. So essentially we're drawing in walls manually. And it gives us a couple of options in terms of the density of this wall. And you can see that it shows our attenuation levels. So approximately 12 to 20 decibels. Attenuation is how quickly the wireless signal gets weaker. The more attenuation we have, the less likely a wireless signal is to propagate through a wall. So for outsides of building, it tends to be pretty thick walls, so we're going to go for concrete. And you'll see all that we need to do is start drawing this in. It's a little bit off kilter here because I'm doing this at a slight angle on the image, but it should still suffice for our purposes. And you'll see I draw it to a specific point and then stop. And the reason for that is there are windows here, and I want to add glass into that as a metric to show that there's different levels of attenuation through those objects. So I can continue on drawing the walls. So we'll go from there to there as a rough approximation, and then from there to there. Okay. Also, if you make a mistake with any one of these walls, you can click on it to delete that wall as well. So you just need to go out of the drawing view. You can remove that wall or change the density of that wall later on as well if you wish. And that should give us a pretty good representation of the outside walls. I'm going to quickly draw in the glass as well. So very quickly, it doesn't have any glass towards the balcony here, so I'm not going to draw in anything there. And I'm going to draw in some glass here. And we can see how easy this is. It's just a couple of clicks and we have it drawn in. For the interior walls, I tend to think that most buildings have more drywall, etc. on the inside of the building. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the wall type to drywall in order to represent a different level of attenuation. So I'm going to do that. And again, there's a door frame here, so I'm not going to cover the door frame. And I'm going to continue all the way up to that. And then just map in the rest of the walls here. So there should be a door there. And we're going to add that in. I promise my drawing will finish up shortly. Sorry, I know for some people that's very infuriating watching stuff like this. So I'll just draw it up quickly. And essentially we're just adding in the rest of the walls, etc., that we would typically see in this premises. The primary goal of what we're trying to achieve here is to just get a rough estimation of coverage. So we'll add that in. Okay, perfect. So that is all of the walls mapped out roughly. Like I said, it's not going to be technically accurate, but just as a good indication. And what I can start doing now is I can start adding in devices. So I can start placing devices. The first place to obviously start would be on your gateway side. So most people for residential use will typically go for something like a Dream router, or today the Dream wall as well. That it depends on what your preference is. There's a comment here from Sage. Let me just quickly have a look. So I would draw the doors as walls, as we could assume the doors are closed most of the time, question mark. That's a good question. So it depends on the use case, I think. So it is 100% a good idea to possibly draw in the doors as walls as well. If you do that, I would just draw it in as a drywall or even possibly glass. The main thing we're trying to achieve through this is a lower level of attenuation. And a glass has a fairly low level of attenuation. So if you're adding this in, it should more accurately represent it that way, but it depends. Do you expect the door to be normally open or normally closed? So it's really difficult to try and design for that, but up to you to make that call. What I'm going to do for our intents and purposes here, I'm going to assume the customer has a Dream router. And as soon as I click on that, you'll see it starts populating the area. I'm going to assume that the NBN deployed this in the corner here. They're lucky if they get it there. My NBN deployments ended up in my kitchen, so it depends on the luck of the draw in terms of where your NBN actually comes out. So we're going to assume it's here, and you'll see that the Dream router has a Wi-Fi coverage, obviously. This is a nice, easy way for us to instantly see what the rough level of coverage is for a specific space. I think this is a little, I think I didn't get the scaling quite right because this seems very extreme in terms of coverage. I think it also missed a couple of walls here. So as soon as I draw this in, it should change that a little bit and we can see the impact that that has. So we can see now the bedroom on the left-hand side isn't green anymore, it's yellow now, etc. As a general rule of thumb, I tend to do a access point per room that needs coverage. And I think that is the general question that you need to ask your customer as well, is what are you looking to cover? What are you trying to achieve in terms of wireless coverage? If they're just looking for best effort and rough wireless communication, it's okay to cut down on the number of access points. But for a good rule of thumb, I normally just go for an access point per room that I'm trying to cover. And I can go, for example, a U6 Enterprise here and a U6 Enterprise here. Might be slightly overkill, but the one thing we need to take into account here is this assumes that the access point is on maximum output power. And in the real world, we ask always from our resellers to turn down the output power and have more controlled access or more controlled wireless in that space. So as it is here, it is assuming that you're turning up the output power all the way to the max. So we've added in a controller, we've added in the access points, and we can also add in additional stuff. So we can add in security cameras, for example. So we'll add a G5 bullet on the corner of the building here. And I can also change the view of that camera as well. As I hover over it, you'll see how that view changes. This again, it takes the lens into account and it actually looks at what is in the real world in terms of the area of coverage. So it should be fairly accurate as well. Obviously, the distance can be deceiving because there's no finite distance to how far a camera can see. If this was an office, for example, we would still add in stuff like door access control, phone systems, smart buildings, etc. And we're going to look at that in a moment. So there's a question here from Tarek as well, asking if this tool can handle multiple floors. So yes, but not at the same time. So what you will have to do is, as soon as you want to move to another level, essentially you'll have to upload a floor plan and you'll have to jump to that level. When you're exporting it, it will export it as a combined project. So it will show you both the first floor and the second floor if they combine into the same project. So this gives us our rough level of coverage. What we can also do is we can turn on our views. So we can say, for example, that we want to see our Wi-Fi coverage all the time, and we want to see how it's going to perform in terms of 5 gig versus 6 gig versus 2.4 gig. 2.4 obviously is way more powerful, so it will cover much more of the area, and 5 gig a little bit more limited, and 6 gig obviously attenuates faster, so it won't cover quite as much. Again, this is assuming that everything is at its maximum output power. So to be safe, we can turn down the output power a little bit from there and still get good coverage. The other thing that is important here, I'm just going to switch off my Wi-Fi coverage. You can also see I can do camera coverage on here as well if I want to. The one thing that I can do here as well, and this is important, is I can map in the cables. So we can assume, for example, that I have cable routing from my Dream wall, I'm going to just map this in quickly, and I'm going to connect it up to my access points. We'll assume this cable just runs through the ceiling. And I'm going to do another one just to connect it to the access points in the bedroom over here, and another one to the actual camera. So what we've just drawn in is actually the cable route, not the cable itself. What we can do is the cable route that they're referring to here is actual routing. So like if you had suspenders, cable suspenders, etc., that's what it's referring to. You can also do tunnels. So if you can set a ingress point and an egress point, and you can use that for larger scale deployments to figure out how the cables are going to work. What's cool about this is you can go auto draw cables, and it will show you the cable distances, and it will estimate how long of a cable you need for all of these links. And then once I'm done with that, I can go finish. It's estimate, it didn't connect this one correctly, but that's okay. So if you want to fix that, all you need to do is you need to change this so that it actually reaches the access points, and it should automatically map that in. It can also tell you that this can wirelessly connect. So this is actually a very good example of that, where it says the UDR is in range of this access point, so it can do wireless meshing as well. But with that mapped, it essentially does the cable routing for us. And where this becomes important is if we export this document. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to see a topology view. So it says that I have one Dream router, a G5 Bullet, two U6 Enterprises. These two devices are wired connectivity or using wired connectivity, and this U6 Enterprise is connecting wirelessly. That's pretty cool to see what your connection topology is. We can also get a port view, and it will show us which ports are used by which devices. This is a suggestion, of course. You can use any port you wish. And in fact, I don't think this takes into account the PoE ports. To my memory, I think the UDR only has the bottom two ports as PoE, so just pay attention to that. It can also create a equipment list for us, so it can show us roughly what equipment we need. And again, it takes stuff like our cable routing, our cables, and even our connectors into account. What is cool about this is it can give us an indication of how much cable we need. I think that's pretty unique in terms of how it works. It says new cabling, 42 meters. It assumes that I have existing cabling in place, but it depends on how you set that up. You can also manage your different projects through here. So if you have multiple projects and you want to control them all through here, they are listed in this space as well for you. So that's a very quick way to draw this in. And again, Leader offers you the service. All we need is we need a floor plan, we need to know the ceiling height, and we need to know the scale of something if it's not present on the floor plan. So this is nice and easy. It's an apartment. Anyone can go draw this in, go play with it. Let's take a look at something that is a little bit more complex. So we'll go to one of my other projects here. So I'm just going to go large office. So this is a little bit more complex, and you can see all of the cabling, the cameras, etc., have already been mapped in. I'm going to give you a quick overview here of something that we would have accurately done. So if I go Wi-Fi coverage, the objective here was to have Wi-Fi in specific areas, and you'll see some of those areas are not covered. So for example, the employee lounge here was not covered by wireless, and there wasn't a big requirement. As a best effort service, employees could get 2.4 gig Wi-Fi, and you'll see how that coverage area changes as soon as we select that band. But 5 gig employee lounge area wasn't considered, and the main thing they wanted to do is provide wireless to a couple of key points in a couple of these boardrooms, etc. We can also see our camera coverage again. So if I want to see the outside of the building, we can see how they've had cameras on the outside to just see what's going on. And again, if we can drill down into each one of these, we can change the layout or direction of any of these. If I want to change this camera around, you'll see it automatically changes the cable location as well. It just assumes that we don't have a conduit for that. You'll see how the environment dynamically updates as I change this around, which I think is very, very cool. And then, of course, the main thing here is we need to get this out. The big thing that we need is a way to show this to a customer. It's all fine and well drawing it, And it's all fine and well getting an estimation of how many access points you need and coverage area, etc. But if we don't have a way to get this out, essentially it's of low use to us. So what we're going to do is we can click on a little button over here, and we can export this. So we can select our plans, we can choose what we want to include here, and at the end of this, we can upload our company logo. So very easily, you can stick your own company logo on there. And at the end of that, you go export to PDF. It takes a couple of minutes because Ubiquiti has to render all of this and render everything in. But the output from that should be something like this. This is everything stuck onto a single PDF. It does a little installation guide. Obviously, you're the reseller, so you probably wouldn't be using the installation guide that much, but it just gives us an idea of the quantity of products that we have, what the rough topology is, and then the floor plan itself. This is just a PDF, so you can very easily take this to a customer and go, this is what we expect your wireless coverage to be like. So for example, if I go to 2.4 gig, this is such a cool tool. It's such a good way to differentiate yourself from your competitors, because your competitors are walking into the premises and going, I think you need about 2 to 3 access points. Because if you go there with a map in hand and you can actually show them what your predicted wireless coverage is, I think it sets you apart from everyone else. I think it shows that you're more of an expert in the deployment, which is a good way to differentiate. It can even go a step further and do stuff like show you what the rack population looks like. So this assumes a certain rack height. I think the default is 24U. And if I go back to this image, you'll notice the one thing that's different from this to our residential setup is that I have a rack in here. And I can actually go configure this rack with what I want. And I can change stuff like the orientation of specific devices. I can put them lower down the rack. You'll see my PDUs and stuff at the bottom of this rack. I can expand on this and I can add in different stuff. I can add an additional NVRs, I can add an additional switching capacity, whatever I prefer to do. So this assumes that everything is stacked into one rack. You also have a choice between using a Ubiquiti rack or your own rack. Obviously, when you're setting this up, it just depends on what's in the customer's premises and where it's going to be. But the expected result is this. It's your PDF that you can output, and you can adapt and change as you wish as well. So by default, I mean, it's a PDF, so you can, if you have a PDF editor, go change this to however you wish. And you also see here, it does stuff like suggest the population of the switch ports as well as the ports on the controller itself. So it's very, very cool to have this ability. The one thing that is also of critical importance here is the ability to share this project, and you absolutely can do that. So speaking from memory, just give me a second here. It is in my project section, and essentially here I will go select the project that I want to share. So large office, and I can go to settings and add collaborators. So if I have 3 people working on this, then I can add them in and they can all go configure this to whatever level you prefer. You can also, if you're done with the project, you can remove this as well, and you can customize this to a certain extent. So this is very cool. The one request that I most commonly get is the way to change this document after the fact, and that it's very simple. You essentially just need to get a PDF editor. So I'm using Adobe here, but I mean you can use whatever you prefer. And what's nice is the way Ubiquiti export this, most of it is fully editable. So for example, if I go click on a specific object here or group of objects, I can typically go edit this if I wish, and do stuff like if I want to make my company logo bigger, I can very easily go do that. And this is just a standard PDF editor. This costs a couple of dollars per month in order to have this functionality through Adobe. And the one thing that we most commonly use this for is doing stuff like channel planning, which is another key part of this. So if I want to just add a text box in here to suggest a channel number, so channel 1, this is on 2.4 gig, so I can assume that that AP will be channel 1, that might be channel 6, that might be 11, and this might be 1 again. As Mike Tyson always says, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. So when we're designing our solutions like this, just keep in mind what your neighbors are doing as well. It's all fine and well that I've selected channel 1 here because it makes logical sense. But if your neighbor is right next to you and is on channel 1, then obviously it doesn't make sense. So something to consider, but this is a very cool way to do it. And again, at the end of this, you save it, you share it off to the customer, and that is the ultimate way to get this output from your customers. That is pretty much it for the Ubiquiti Unified Design Center. There is also a UISP Design Center as well that takes stuff like outdoor environments into account, etc. It is a little out of scope for this webinar, but we have recorded a webinar on that already. It is on our Leader Academy YouTube channel, which you guys are welcome to have a look at as well. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to post them through now. This is just a very quick rundown. I highly suggest that you grab just a standard floor plan off Google, dump it into this Unified Design Center and go play with it. It is pretty self-explanatory. I think most people win with this in a couple of hours or so. And again, if you want us to handle that for you, we can absolutely do that. I see there's a couple of questions here. So from Sam, can you share designs between users? Yep. So so good question. So Sam also asks, if we do the initial design and you want to change it after the fact, yes, absolutely. When we create this project, we can either give it to you as a PDF or we can just give you privileges to this design that we've done as well. So happily you can do that, and our team's ready to do that for you as well. There's a question here from Rashim. Will it take parameters from the council plan automatically? So no, it doesn't. It doesn't analyze the image for anything, unfortunately. So it doesn't take into account what the scale is or any of the actual floor plan. It's just a flat image, essentially. If you want something like that will take a AI approach to it, analyze the image and try to figure out scale, etc. itself, there are commercial options to that. Not going to lie, they are a little bit costly. So there is one, I forget what its name is, but you can search for it. So commercial Wi-Fi design solutions, and you should see there's a couple that can do that and take that into account. There's another question here from Nashin. Sorry if I'm getting the names wrong. How's the Wi-Fi man work with this after installation to make sure that all is working as per spec? Okay, that is a good question. So right now, Wi-Fi man doesn't tie into this Unified Design Center at all. I know it is something that Ubiquiti have mentioned in the past that they want to look at and do. I expect that to become available in future as well. Right now, what I'm doing, if I'm in the scenario, I would use the Wi-Fi Man tool to walk around the customer's premises and just gauge how accurate the coverage map is versus what I'm actually seeing in the real world on Wi-Fi Man. Main thing I'm looking at is receive signal strength indicators. If my receive signal strength and my signal to noise ratio is good, then it should be all good. So that perhaps brings us on to a good point here, that this is purely a tool, and again, it can't be 100% accurate, but it tries to be as accurate as possible. So Wi-Fi Man's a really good way to scan that after the fact. Okay, so with that, if you guys have any additional questions, you're welcome to post them through to us at webinars@leadersystems.com.au. I'd be happy to assist you there. Or alternatively, you can go on to leaderacademy.com.au and you'll see all of my details on there to reach out to me as well.